Hi guys, today happen to have another game against Jordan since we're kind of getting near the point where I've played a bunch of people in my Twitch chat, which is great. You know, I have regulars. It's awesome. We're playing people multiple times, so you'll start to see some familiar names on here. Side note as well, if you are looking for games against me that could potentially end up on the channel as well, the Twitch link as well as all of my other social media links are on my YouTube page as well as in the description of every video. So be sure to check them out at the end of the video, or even right now if you want to alt tab real quick. I'm not talking about anything important except for the team preview. So, looking at the team preview, speaking of, Tapu Lele and Pheremosa are both absolutely terrifying together. The Psychic Terrain forcing a scenario where you have to be able to live a Pheremosa's hit in order to be able to knock it out, and then if it's a Life Orb Pheremosa, you now have to live a Life Orb Pheremosa's hit in order to potentially be able to knock it out. And I've only really got two things on this team that are equipped enough to do that, to maybe to an extent, and that's if they're both at full HP. I don't have anything that is a a hard answer to it, so I'm gonna have to be careful and try to knock those two things out as soon as possible. But in the meantime, to kick the game off, I'm gonna lead off with Glycopod, and my opponent's gonna lead off with the Pheremosa. Now, predicting him to actually want to switch out into something else that isn't going to want to take a first impression, i.e. Skarmory. I'm actually going to go ahead and Liquidation, see how much damage it does. If I got a defense trap, it would be absolutely fantastic. It turns out this thing is just straight up max defense. Like, a Liquidation does probably 25%. That's coming off of a Glycopod. Glycopod is a very respectable attack stat as well, especially since I'm invested max HP, max attack, and it does that little. I know that I'm pretty good bringing this thing in and then just immediately threatening it out. On top of that, just so loud. Or even if it was a special defensive Skarmory. I don't know why I went ahead and said that the way I said that. I broke it sturdy with Liquidation. That's really the only talking point that needed to be brought up there. So I think I just go for the fairly obvious Flamethrower. There's no need to No! You know what? I'm continuing with the hard reads. I just remembered. I'm not going for the Flamethrower. I'm just going to keep on reading. So I go for a Sludge Bomb. I unfortunately do get a crit and a Poison. I totally would have been okay with just the Poison, since the odds for Sludge Bomb to Poison are the same as Scald to Burn. It's actually a semi-reliable way to spread that status. But you know what? I'm not going to bank on the fact that I'm going to get another crit again, because that would... that's definitely not happening. But I'm gonna actually go out into my Minior right now, which turns out to be a pretty decent switch in, because if the Marowak knocks me into shields down, I should be good to go to just kind of have some fun from there. And it can't Will-O-Wisp on the switch because of the ability. Shadow Bone will not do that much, and then Earthquake, I'll be immune to that, and Flare Blitz will be resisted. So I like the idea of switching it in onto just regular special defensive Marowak, and then even if it is an offensive Marowak, I think the only other thing it would maybe have on there is potentially Rock Slide or Double Edge because of Rock Head. I don't know. What I do want to talk about here is this switch. This is a hard read. This is like 2 layers ahead. So I'm actually predicting the Shadow Ball, predicting the Metagross, I'm predicting his Shadow Ball, predicting him to predict me to go into Metagross, which is why I just go hard Porygon Z, and I immediately Z convert on this turn. I was just like, you know what? I never play like this. This is so uncharacteristic of me. But I'm actually just going to go ahead and go for the Z conversion right here, because if I'm actually able to Z convert successfully, the Skarmory Sturdy is broken, so it can no longer Whirlwind me, and I think I should be in a pretty good spot, me being the adaptability electric type at this point, to sweep, despite the fact, unless it's like Sash Pheremosa, which I don't think it is. We don't actually get that opportunity. But it turns out this is just straight up, I believe, special defensive Araquanid, and I got an absolute minimum roll. I learned off of that. I think I had like a 96 to like 116% chance to knock, or what is it? That's how much damage it would have done. And it turns out I got the low roll on the 96, and it makes the game a little bit longer, but that's okay. On top of that, that last turn jarred me. It just fucked me up so bad, I forgot about Psychic Terrain. I'm forgetting about that more than I fight other people that are forgetting about that, but it's like 50-50, We all forget. Terrains were not even necessarily that used or that popular, but now that you have an auto setter for them, all of a sudden they become pretty useful and cool things to see in the game as well. But I'm going to go ahead and go for I guess a double Leech Life right there. And it turns out, you know, the Psychic Terrain actually wears off right now, right when I'm, you know, I think the Lele's still alive too, so I can't really go for first impression that reliably as long as the Lele's around. But the Skarm's going to come in. I actually realizing right now that I believe I don't have a spinner or a defogger, so I need to get rid of the Skarmory as soon as possible. Like, these spikes gotta go. Like, if it gets to the point where there's 3 of them, I think everything I have left is grounded, so that's 25% on switch-in for every switch-in, and I'm not about that life, so I definitely need to get rid of this thing right now, or at least act like I'm going to, you know, actually go for the Flamethrower on this turn, since there are not any more switch-ins thanks to the Marowak being killed off by the Rock Slide, and yeah, unfortunately, I believe this does give him a good switch into the Dog Guard, which is actually going to be able to just immediately threaten me out, because this damn thing's fast. This thing is, I think this thing's 150. I know it's faster than Salazzle, from what I remember. I'm thinking in my mind right now, Salazzle's 112 and Dog Guard is 115. I'm not 100% on that, but it turns out he actually ends up predicting me on this turn. Ends up going for a crunch, predicting my Trevenant, and that is banded. That's a lot of damage. That's an unstabbed crunch, and it turns out it just straight up does that much. So I have a plan for what I can do here because I still have my Minior, but I want to see, like, you know, if I'm actually able to potentially salvage this thing, get a harvest on my next turn. But I do use my berry, and then I believe I protect on this turn again to see if the moves are going to get switched up. It's going to go for DD or something like that. And it turns out it just ends up still going for crunch, and I think at this point is where I thought of the Minior play, which is why I just decided to sack it from here. Or maybe I forgot about the defense drop. Either way, you know, the defense drop was pretty key there, and it ultimately made it so Trevenant was not going to be doing much this game, and I didn't really have any other switch-ins to it. But thanks to the fact that Shields Down does make it so my defense and special defense are 120 stock, and that is an unstabbed crunch, as I was mentioning before, but it is still banded. I'm thinking it has a good chance to actually bring me into Shields Down, and it turns out I miss it by like 2 or 3 HP. And that's actually going to come into play right on this next turn. This next turn or the one after that, but I Shell Smash, and you know, that's what this thing does. So, I mean, being base 60... and Adamant, I know I'm going to be able to outspeed this thing. Not by a lot, you know, I'm still going for it in Shields Down. But the problem here is I'm at around half health, and I'm not going to be able to outspeed a Scarf Lele because I'm in Shields Down. If I was in Shields Up, I'd be base 120 multiplied by 2, which would absolutely be faster than that. And the game would have been over right now. Would have been able to bop the Pheremosa too. But because of that low damage roll on that, I actually just straight up end up dying to this. And I do have a Mega Metagross still, which is good. I also now know 100% for a fact that this thing is Scarfed, meaning that I can just Mega and I can just kill it off from here. The problem here is I'm going to have to spend a decent amount of time in here playing around with the terrain turns. And actually, now that I think about it, I should have stayed in here and, you know, waited as long as possible to kill it off. Because the terrain will still stay up if I kill it off on this turn. And then I have probably 3 or 4 more turns of terrain with Pheremosa up. And I only have 3 Pokemon left, so that could have gotten really scary if I had actually hit Meteor Mash. So I'm actually really grateful that I did not hit Meteor Mash right off the bat. If anything, I should have gone for a... probably a Hammer Arm and then like a Meteor Mash or something after that, or I don't know. I think I could have gone for Zen Headbutt there too, but I think they both have the same odds to miss. Anyways, point being, this is the exact scenario I wanted to avoid at the beginning of the game, and it's happening late game. And he's got 2 layers of spikes, and there's gonna be some chokes happening definitely. So. First off, high jump kick happens. That's fine. I was actually immediately sacking this to be a pivot here. Now, what I did immediately forget about was the 2 layers of spikes and the fact that this thing is more than likely going to be able to bring me into my my emergency exit range after I take a hit, which is, you know, going to be a problem. And it turns out it actually almost immediately does. So it goes for a U-turn, that's fine. The thing that I'm not fine with is how much HP it leaves me at. It leaves me at 29, which if you're doing your math correctly, 2 layers of spikes is actually going to be able to kill me on switch-in. And the terrain unfortunately for me, I believe wears off at the end of this turn. And I'm at a point where I gotta bullet punch, and I gotta hope that he kills himself off with life orb recoil. Because if he doesn't, then I switch in my Goliathpod and I just immediately lose. Or to kill it outright, either or would be great. So here we go. U-turn actually is going to knock me out, and the life orb, fortunately for me, is actually going to be able to knock him out at the end of this turn as well. So we end up with a double down at the end of the turn. Damage rolls got real scary in this one, guys, let me tell you. And the only thing I have left is a Goliathpod that if it came out of the ball, would have died. So technically, you know, if that, well, actually not even technically, like if Goliathpod came onto the field, I would have lost, and the Pheremosa would have still had one more life orb hit. So very close, very cool game. There's a lot of points in there where I was just like, yes, no, no. And so a lot of that, pretty cool. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you can leave a like, rating, comment, subscribe, do your thing. You guys know how that goes. I'm trying to think if I have any more videos backed up after this. I might have one. Turns out that the other ones that I was looking at were not great, but I think I still have some more that I haven't, you know, pushed to a batch yet. So, anyways, that's gonna do it out of me, and I will catch you guys on the next one later.